let's understand how a pointer is pointing to structure. So what do we do if we want a pointer to point to structure? So let's start with a simple structure. So I'm creating a structure called point. And this structure is having two members, X and Y. This is my structure. And then let's go to main, where we create a variable of this structure. So we are creating a variable. So I say struct point P. Now, somewhere in the memory, we are going to get a block, and this block is containing two members. We have both X and Y. And here we have 4 bytes for X and then another 4 bytes for Y. And this is my structure variable, and we call it as P. Now, if you want, you can initialize it. Let's say it is initialized to 10 and 20. That is how you initialize it. So here we have 10 and there we have 20. Okay, so this is a variable of type struct point, and this is how you visualize it in memory. And the starting address of this structure variable might be something like some 200, some imaginary address, okay? The real world addresses might be much bigger, but that doesn't matter. It's just a number. So assume we start the structure at address 200, and it will go up to 207, because from 200 to 203 first member, and from 204 to 207 the second member, because we have two members, two integers. I assume integer occupies 4 bytes. Now, the next thing is to create a pointer pointing to structure. So struct point, I say something like star pointer to point. Let's call it as PP. Okay, and we are creating a pointer that is of type struct point. So whatever address this pointer is pointing to, that should be belonging to a structure variable. So here I say PP is equal to ampersand P. I want to take the address of P and copy that into PP. So somewhere here you take your PP. And remember, addresses occupy 4 bytes. So PP is going to be of 4 bytes because this is a pointer. Pointers occupy 4 bytes as they store only address. Now this is where we are now storing 200. So this is pointing to this location. Now your pointer is pointing to a variable of struct point. What next? And if you say star PP, you go to PP, take the value which is 200, and then you will go to that location. But in that location, you have not one, but two different members. Which member you mean to access? Well, you need to mention that. And you need to mention that because you have multiple members in this location. So you can say star PP and you need to enclose that. That means go there first, and then at that position, I have both X and Y, and we can say X. And this gives me access to X. So if you want to access X of the structure that is pointed by PP, you have to use star PP in parentheses. Evaluate this first. If you don't give parentheses, then C will be treating it differently. And if you don't give this star, it will be treated like this. That means it will treat PP as a normal structure variable. It will try to access member X, and then it will treat that as a pointer. Now, this is not the way I want it to be interpreted. So, this is not what we want. Be careful. You must enclose that in parentheses. If you don't do that, this is the interpretation. So, make sure you use parentheses. But instead of you using parentheses and unnecessarily taking extra pain, you have a better way to do it. What is that? In C, we have a nice operator called arrow operator. So when you are using a pointer to structure, use arrow operator and simply use the member on the right of arrow. So PP, then arrow and member. That's the syntax. Pointer, arrow, member. So it goes to PP, will pick up the address, it will go to that structure, and it will take the member X. So this is how you access a member of the structure when you're using a pointer pointing to that structure. So this is a new operator. You can use this, but it is little cumbersome, and this is more clean and simple and less error prone. So always consider using this when you're talking about a pointer pointing to structure. So this is the way you declare a pointer. It points to struct point, and this is how you assign address of a variable, and then we use arrow operator to access the variable and get access to a member. You might not need a pointer to structure in many cases, but if you are dealing with something like linked list, which is a data structure, if you are ever building linked lists and any data structures on your own, you have to use dynamic memory allocation, and you need to use a lot of structures and pointers. Well, otherwise you might not need much of it. Of course, you need it still when you're dealing with pass-by reference in the context of structures. But I want you to understand what is this expression. For now, just focus on this. So this is a pointer, this is a member, and the other way to do that is p dot x, but here p is a normal variable, x is a member. So this is member operator, this is arrow operator. Use arrow for pointers and use dot for normal structure variable. Well, that's all you need to know about a pointer pointing to structure.